The smell of coal smoke and steam hung heavy in the August air as Katherine Zimmerman stood on the platform at Winnemucca Station in Nevada, her gloved hands clutching a handkerchief so tightly her knuckles showed white through the thin fabric. Isaac Whitmore had loved her for 3 years, ever since the day she walked into her father's general store with flour dusting her dark hair and her green eyes blazing because someone had shortchanged her mother. He was buying rope and nails for the ranch, just another cowboy with dust on his boots and dreams bigger than his wallet. But when she smiled at him, really smiled after he paid the difference from his own pocket, he knew he would never love another woman as long as he drew breath. Now she was leaving. The train to San Francisco sat waiting like an iron beast, belching steam and promise. Her aunt had written about opportunities, about a proper life for a young woman, about society and culture, and everything Winnemucca could not offer. Katherine was 22 years old, and her parents thought it was time she made something of herself beyond helping run the store and attending church socials, where the same 15 eligible men showed up week after week. Isaac was 24, and he had finally saved enough to buy his own land. 200 acres of good grazing land south of town, a creek running through it, and enough timber to build a decent house. He had planned to propose last month, then last week, then yesterday. But every time he reached for the ring in his pocket, words failed him. What if she said no? What if his dreams were not enough compared to the glittering possibilities of San Francisco? "You should get on now," Katherine said, and her voice cracked on the last word. "The train leaves in 5 minutes." They were not standing together. Isaac stood back near the station house, hat in his hands, watching her with dark eyes that held every unsaid word between them. She faced the train, her traveling dress a deep blue that made her look older, more sophisticated, like she already belonged to that other world. Katherine. He said her name like a prayer. She turned and he saw tears on her cheeks. "Do not make this harder, Isaac, please. I have to say it." He took 3 steps toward her, then stopped, aware of the other passengers boarding, of her mother and father standing near the ticket window, of the conductor checking his watch. "I love you. I have loved you since the moment I met you, and I will love you until the day I die." Katherine closed her eyes. "I know. Then stay." He moved closer, his voice dropping to something urgent and raw. "Or let me come with you. I will sell the land. I will find work in San Francisco. I will do whatever it takes. Your dream is here," she whispered. "The ranch, the land, everything you have worked for. I cannot ask you to give that up." "You are not asking. I am offering. All aboard." The conductor's voice cut through the moment like a knife. Katherine looked at her parents. Her mother nodded encouragingly. Her father picked up her trunk to carry it to the baggage car. Everything was decided, set in motion, inevitable as the sun set. "Goodbye, Isaac." She said it firmly, turning away from him, climbing the steps to the passenger car. She did not look back. Isaac stood frozen as the engineer called out, as the wheels began to turn, as the train started its slow pull away from the station. Katherine found a window seat, and through the glass he saw her face, pale and set and determined. Something broke open inside his chest. He ran. His boots pounded against the wooden platform. The train was picking up speed, but not yet at full power, still laboring to get the heavy cars moving. He ran alongside it, searching for a handhold, and found the iron railing at the back of Katherine's car. His fingers closed around it, and he pulled himself up onto the small platform between cars, stumbling, catching himself against the door. Through the window he saw Katherine rise from her seat, her hand going to her mouth. He wrenched the door open and pushed into the passenger car, breathing hard, his hat lost somewhere on the platform behind him. "Sir," the conductor appeared from the front of the car. "Sir, do you have a ticket?" Isaac ignored him. He walked down the aisle to where Katherine stood, one hand braced against the seat back, staring at him like he was a ghost or a miracle or both. "I am not letting you go," he said. "Not without telling you that I would burn down my whole life for 5 minutes of your smile. Not without saying that every dream I have ever had is worthless if you are not in it. Isaac." Her voice broke on his name. "I jumped on this train and I am not letting go. Of the train or of you. If you want to go to San Francisco, then we go to San Francisco. If you want to stay, we stay. But we do it together." The conductor reached them, red-faced and indignant. "You cannot just board a moving train without a ticket. I will have to ask you to disembark at the next stop." Katherine looked at Isaac, then at the conductor, then back at Isaac. Her face transformed, all the careful control crumbling away to reveal something blazing and bright and utterly reckless. "No, madam," the conductor blinked at her. "No, he is not getting off. He is with me." She grabbed Isaac's hand, lacing their fingers together. "And we are getting off at the next stop together. Katherine." Isaac said her name like he was tasting honey. "Together," she repeated, and kissed him right there in front of the conductor and the scandalized elderly woman across the aisle and God and everyone. The train rattled on through the Nevada desert. The next stop was Mill City, 18 miles up the line, a small mining town with more ambition than sense. They stood together in the aisle, hands clasped, while the conductor muttered about young people and proper procedures and finally stalked away to check other passengers' tickets. "Your parents," Isaac said. "They will be worried. I will send a telegram from Mill City." Katherine sat down and pulled him into the seat beside her. "What were you thinking, jumping onto a moving train?" "I was thinking I could not watch you leave. You could have been killed. I have been dying for 3 years, loving you and not saying it properly." He turned to face her, their knees touching in the narrow space. "I should have asked you to marry me 100 times. I should have told you every day that you are the reason I wanted to build something, to have land and a house and a future. What good is any of it without you?" Katherine laughed, but tears streamed down her face. "I was going to San Francisco because I thought you did not want me. You never said anything, never gave me any sign beyond being kind and polite and helping out at the store when we needed extra hands. I am a coward." He said it flatly. "I was afraid you would refuse me. You just jumped on a moving train. That was easier than risking your rejection." She kissed him again, softer this time, her hand coming up to cup his face. "You foolish, wonderful man." The landscape rolled by outside the window, sagebrush and rock and the distant purple mountains. Inside the train car, the world narrowed to just the two of them, the space between their bodies, the feeling of her fingers still laced through his. "What do we do now?" Katherine asked finally. "I do not have much money, and I assume you spent everything on that land. I have about $40 in my pocket, enough to get us back to Winnemucca from Mill City and maybe buy you dinner. Romantic." But she smiled when she said it. "I will sell the land if I have to." "We can start fresh somewhere else, somewhere you want to be." Katherine shook her head. "That land is your dream, Isaac. I am not going to be the woman who made you give up your dream. You are my dream. Then dream bigger." She straightened her shoulders. "We keep the land. We build the ranch. And I help you do it. It will be hard work. The house is not even built yet. I have been living in a line shack barely big enough to turn around in. I have spent my whole life helping run a general store. I know hard work." She squeezed his hand. "I know this is not what you planned. I know you probably wanted to have everything ready before you proposed, a proper house and furniture and everything settled. I do not have a ring. I do not need a ring right now. I need to know if you are really asking." Isaac slid off the seat and knelt in the aisle of the rocking train car. The elderly woman across the aisle gasped. Two miners in the back craned their necks to see. Katherine Zimmerman, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me on 200 acres of Nevada dirt? Will you put up with me coming in from the range smelling like cattle and horse sweat? Will you be my wife and my partner and the person I come home to every single night for the rest of our lives? Yes. She pulled him up and into her arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes to all of it. The train pulled into Mill City 40 minutes later. The town consisted of one main street, a collection of mining buildings, a saloon, a small general store, and a church with a crooked steeple. Isaac helped Katherine down from the train, and they stood on the platform watching the train continue northward without them. "We need to send that telegram," Katherine said. "My parents will be frantic." The telegraph office was in the back of the general store. Katherine composed a message while Isaac stood beside her. "Getting married, stop returning to Winnemucca. Soon stop all my love." Katherine, the clerk, eyed them with open curiosity, but said nothing as he tapped out the message. Isaac paid with coins from his pocket, and they walked back out into the dusty street. "The next train back does not leave until tomorrow morning," Isaac said, checking the schedule posted outside the store. "We need a place to stay tonight." "There is a hotel." Katherine pointed to a 2-story building with faded paint and a sign reading Mill City Lodging. "I should get you your own room." Isaac spoke carefully. "We are not married yet." Katherine looked at him, her green eyes steady. "Get one room, Isaac." "I am not spending our engagement night alone in a strange town." His throat went dry. "Katherine, I am 22 years old and I have made my choice. If that shocks people, let them be shocked." She took his arm. "Come on." The hotel clerk was a weathered woman in her 50s who looked them over with sharp eyes. "You two married?" "Not yet," Katherine said before Isaac could answer. "But we will be soon. We just got engaged." The woman's expression softened. "Congratulations." "That will be $2 for the night, breakfast included." The room was small but clean, with a bed, a washstand, and a window overlooking the main street. Isaac set down Katherine's small traveling bag, the only luggage she had carried onto the train, and stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. "I can sleep on the floor," he offered. Katherine came to him, putting her hands on his chest. "Isaac Whitmore, if you sleep on the floor on our engagement night, I will be very disappointed. I want to do this right by you. You jumped on a moving train for me. I think we are past worrying about doing things in the perfect order." She reached up and touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. "I love you. I have loved you for so long, watching you at church socials, seeing you ride past the store, hoping you would come in just so I could talk to you for a few minutes. I came in 3 times a week." He caught her hand and kissed her palm. "Even when I did not need anything, I would buy 1 nail at a time if it meant I got to see you." They stood together as the afternoon sun slanted through the window, and then Katherine reached up and began unbuttoning his shirt. His hands came up to stop her, gentle but firm. "Katherine, we should wait until we are properly married." "Do you want to wait?" she asked it honestly, searching his eyes. He made a sound that was half laugh, half groan. "No, God help me, no, but I want to give you everything the right way. A wedding, a real wedding night in our own home." She stepped back, respecting his wish even as disappointment flickered across her face. "All right, we wait. Not long," he promised. "We can be married as soon as we get back to Winnemucca, a few days at most." They lay together on the bed, fully clothed, his arms around her and her head on his chest. Through the window they could hear the sounds of Mill City settling into evening, miners finishing their shifts, someone playing a fiddle in the saloon down the street. "Tell me about the land," Katherine said. "I want to know everything." So Isaac described it, the way the creek wound through the eastern section, the stand of cottonwoods that would provide shade in summer, the grazing land that was better than it looked from the road. He told her his plans for the house, where he would site it to catch the morning sun and avoid the worst of the winter wind. He talked about starting with 20 head of cattle, building up the herd slowly, maybe raising horses too because he had always been good with horses. Katherine listened, asking questions, offering ideas. She had a head for business from years of working in her father's store, and she quickly understood the economics of ranching, the thin margins and hard work and long-term thinking it required. "We will need chickens," she said, "and a garden. I can preserve vegetables for winter, and we should keep detailed records of all expenses and income so we know exactly where we stand." "You really want to do this?" Isaac asked, needing to hear it again. "I really want to do this. With you." They talked until the sun set and the room grew dark. The hotel clerk knocked to tell them dinner was ready in the small dining room downstairs. They ate stew and bread with 3 miners and a traveling salesman, and when the men realized they had just gotten engaged, they insisted on buying a bottle of wine to celebrate. Isaac and Katherine drank sparingly, still sitting close together, their hands finding each other under the table. The miners told rough jokes and the salesman complained about the roads, and it felt surprisingly normal, surprisingly right, this sudden pivot their lives had taken. They slept that night in each other's arms, and if they stole kisses in the darkness, if their hands explored cautiously through layers of clothing, they still kept the promise to wait. It was not easy. Isaac lay awake long after Katherine's breathing deepened into sleep, feeling the warmth of her body against his, wanting her with an ache that was almost physical pain. But he had waited 3 years. He could wait a few more days. Morning came with the smell of coffee and bacon. They ate breakfast with the same group from dinner, then walked to the train station to catch the southbound train back to Winnemucca. This time, Isaac bought a ticket. The train ride back felt different from the desperate journey north. They sat together watching the familiar landscape roll past, making plans, talking about everything and nothing. Katherine worried about her parents' reaction, though Isaac pointed out that the telegram had not said they were already married, just that they were getting married, so surely that was respectable enough. "My father likes you," Katherine said. "He has said before that you are a hard worker and honest. That is a long way from wanting me to marry his daughter. My mother wants me to marry someone who will treat me well. That is you." They reached Winnemucca in the early afternoon. The town looked different to Isaac now, charged with new possibility. This was where he would marry Katherine, where they would start their life together. The station platform was empty except for the station master and a couple waiting to board. Katherine's parents were not there, which was both a relief and a disappointment. They walked together through town toward the general store, and Isaac tried not to notice the curious looks from people who recognized them. News traveled fast in a small town, and he had no doubt that someone had seen him jump onto the train yesterday, that the story was already making the rounds. The store was busy with afternoon customers. Katherine's mother looked up from behind the counter, saw them, and went very pale. Then very red. She said something sharp to the customer she was helping, finished the transaction with shaking hands and came around the counter like a storm gathering strength. Katherine Zimmerman. The full name was never a good sign. "What on earth were you thinking, Mama?" Katherine let go of Isaac's hand and went to her mother. "I am sorry I worried you, but I am not sorry I came back. The whole town is talking about how Isaac jumped onto the train. Do you know how that looks? Do you know what people are saying? I do not care what people are saying." Katherine's voice was steady. "I love him, Mama, and he loves me. We are getting married." Her mother looked at Isaac, who stood holding his hat, trying to appear respectable and trustworthy, and like the kind of man who should be allowed to marry the woman he loved. "You jumped on a moving train," her mother said. "Yes, madam, I did. You could have been killed." "Yes, madam, that is true." "And you would have done it anyway, even knowing you could die." Isaac met her eyes. "I would have done anything to tell her the truth. That I love her and I want to spend my life with her." Catherine's mother stared at him for a long moment, then her expression crumpled and she started to cry. Catherine rushed to her, but her mother waved her off. "I am not sad, you foolish girl. I am relieved." She wiped her eyes with her apron. "I have watched you two dance around each other for 3 years. I told your father just last week that if Isaac did not do something soon, I was going to knock your heads together myself." "Mama!" Catherine sounded scandalized and delighted at once. "You knew?" Isaac asked. "Everyone knew except you two, apparently." She shook her head. "Your father is in the back. Go tell him before I have to do it and get it all wrong because I am too emotional." They found Michael Zimmerman checking inventory in the storeroom. He was a big man with graying hair and the kind of steady presence that made people trust him. When Catherine explained what had happened, he listened without interrupting, his face giving nothing away. When she finished, he looked at Isaac. "You have land?" "Yes, sir." 200 acres, good grazing, water access. "House?" "Not yet, sir. I have a line shack, but I can build a house. I know carpentry. It will take time, but I can do it." "My daughter is not going to live in a line shack." "No, sir, I would not ask that of her." "We can stay in town until I get a proper house built." Michael Zimmerman grunted. "You have money saved?" "Some. Enough to start. Ranching is hard, you know that?" "Yes, sir. You will work yourself half to death and still some years you will barely scrape by." "I know that too, sir." "And you want to bring my daughter into that life?" Isaac straightened his shoulders. "Your daughter is the smartest, strongest, most capable woman I have ever met. She knows what ranching requires. She wants to do this. And I promise you, sir, I will work every day of my life to make sure she never regrets choosing me." Catherine's father studied him for a long moment, then turned to his daughter. "This is what you want, truly?" "Yes, Papa, more than anything." He sighed, then smiled and pulled her into a hug. "Then I suppose I should welcome my new son." He reached out to shake Isaac's hand. "But if you make her unhappy, Cowboy, you will answer to me." "Yes, sir, that is fair." They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans. Catherine's mother insisted they have a proper wedding in the church, with family and friends, no matter how quickly they wanted to do it. The earliest they could arrange everything was Sunday, 4 days away. Isaac agreed, though 4 days felt like an eternity. He spent those days working harder than he had ever worked in his life. He enlisted help from 3 other cowboys he knew, men who owed him favors or simply wanted to support a friend. Together they began framing the house on his land, getting at least the basic structure up. It would not be finished by the wedding, not even close. But Isaac wanted Catherine to see that he was serious, that her future was already taking shape. Catherine spent the days sewing a wedding dress with her mother and 2 aunts, making food for the celebration after the ceremony, and quietly assembling supplies for their future household. Her father gave them a generous wedding present in the form of store credit, enough to outfit a kitchen and buy basic furniture. The whole town seemed caught up in the romance of it. The story of Isaac jumping onto the train had taken on legendary proportions, growing more dramatic with each retelling. By some versions, he had leaped between cars while the train was at full speed. By others, he had fought off the conductor with his bare hands. Isaac tried to correct the most outrageous claims, but people seemed to enjoy the mythology more than the truth. Sunday morning dawned clear and warm. Isaac stood in the church in his best clothes, which he had bought from the dry goods store with money he could barely spare. They were still just cowboy clothes, but clean and new, and Catherine's mother had assured him he looked very handsome. His best friend Robert stood beside him as best man. Grinning like this was the best entertainment he had seen in years. The church filled with people, more than Isaac had expected. Half the town seemed to have turned out, curious or supportive or just wanting to witness the conclusion of the drama. Then the doors opened and Katherine walked down the aisle on her father's arm. She wore a simple white dress, but she looked like every dream Isaac had never dared to articulate. Her dark hair was pinned up with small white flowers. Her green eyes found his and held, and the whole church could have disappeared for all he cared. The ceremony was traditional, the words familiar from 100 other weddings. But when Isaac said his vows, his voice was rough with emotion. "I promise to love you and cherish you, to work beside you and build a life with you, to honor you every day for as long as I live." Catherine's voice was steadier, but her eyes were bright with tears. "I promise to stand with you through hard times and good, to be your partner and your friend, to love you with everything I am for all the days we are given." The minister pronounced them husband and wife. Isaac kissed her, carefully at first, then deeper when she laughed against his mouth and pulled him closer. The church erupted in applause. The celebration afterward was held at the town hall. Someone had brought a fiddle and another man a guitar, and there was dancing and food and enough whiskey that the party went long into the evening. Isaac danced with his wife, the words still strange and wonderful in his mind, and tried to memorize every detail of this day. As the sun set, they quietly slipped away. Isaac had rented a room at the hotel, the nicest one available, and Catherine's mother had decorated it with flowers and candles. It was not much, but it was theirs, at least for tonight. Inside the room with the door closed, they stood looking at each other. All the desperate longing of the past days seemed to fill the space between them. Katherine smiled, suddenly shy, and began unbuttoning her dress. "Let me," Isaac said, his voice rough. He stepped close and took over, his fingers fumbling slightly with the small buttons. The dress fell away, and she was suddenly so beautiful he forgot to breathe. Their wedding night was tender and awkward and perfect, full of whispered words and gentle laughter and the joy of finally being together with no more waiting, no more reasons to hold back. They loved each other through the night, learning each other's bodies, discovering what brought pleasure, what made the other gasp or sigh. In the early morning hours, Katherine lay with her head on Isaac's chest, his arm around her, both of them exhausted and happy. "I am glad you jumped on that train," she whispered. "So am I. What do you think would have happened if you had let me go?" Isaac tightened his arm around her. "I would have followed you to San Francisco eventually. Maybe not that day, maybe not that month, but I would have found a way. I could not have lived the rest of my life without you." "Good answer." She kissed his chest. "But I am glad you did not wait. I am glad you ran after me and told me the truth. I should have told you years ago. We are together now. That is what matters." They spent 3 more days at the hotel, mostly because Catherine's parents thought it was proper for newlyweds to have some time alone together before starting the hard work of building their life. Isaac spent the days taking Katherine out to see the land, showing her the house frame that was slowly taking shape, introducing her to the neighbors whose ranches bordered his property. Katherine charmed everyone she met. She asked intelligent questions about ranching, admired livestock, and made notes in a small book about everything she would need to know. The neighboring ranchers' wives took to her immediately, offering advice and promising to help however they could. On the 4th day, they moved into the line shack. It was exactly as small as Isaac had warned, barely room for a bed and a small stove and a trunk for their belongings. But Katherine cleaned it thoroughly, hung curtains she had sewn, and declared it cozy. "It is temporary," Isaac said, watching her arrange their few possessions. "The house will be ready by winter." "I know." She came to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "And it will be wonderful. But this is wonderful too, Isaac. We are together. We have land and a future in each other. I do not need anything else." They fell into a routine. Isaac worked on the house and the ranch from dawn until dark, often with help from Robert or other cowboys passing through looking for work. Katherine managed their small home, started a garden, and spent long hours helping with the house construction despite Isaac's protests that it was too hard for her. "I am not made of glass," she told him, carrying boards. "And this is my house too. I want to help build it." The house took shape slowly through the hot Nevada summer. It was not large, just 4 rooms, but it was solid and well built. Katherine chose where the windows should go to catch the light. Isaac built a wide porch because Katherine mentioned she would like a place to sit in the evenings. Every decision was made together. By September, the house was finished enough to move into, though there was still interior work to be done. They carried their belongings across the property on a warm afternoon, and Katherine stood in the center of the main room, turning slowly to take it all in. "It is perfect," she said. "It is rough," Isaac corrected. "The walls need finishing, the floors need sanding, I still need to build most of the furniture." "It is perfect," Katherine repeated firmly, "because you built it for us." That night, they christened their new home, making love in front of the fireplace on a pile of blankets because they did not have a proper bed yet. Afterward, Katherine lay in Isaac's arms and talked about the future, about the cattle they would buy in the spring, about maybe getting a milk cow and definitely getting chickens. "I want children," she said suddenly. "Someday. Not right away because we have so much to do here, but someday." Isaac kissed the top of her head. "How many?" "I do not know. How many do you want?" "As many as you will give me, a whole houseful. Let us start with one and see how we manage." But she smiled as she said it. The first year of their marriage was hard. They learned ranching through trial and error, through advice from neighbors, through sheer stubborn determination. They bought 10 head of cattle with money borrowed from Katherine's father and spent anxious months making sure the animals thrived. They endured a harsh winter in their new house, learning which corners let in drafts, which windows needed better sealing. Through it all, they worked together. Katherine proved to be exactly as capable as Isaac had believed, never complaining about the hard work or the long hours. She kept their accounts in neat columns, made shrewd decisions about which supplies were necessary and which could wait, and handled the business side of the ranch with the same skill she had brought to her father's store. Isaac watched her haggle with a cattle buyer one spring afternoon, getting $3 more per head than the man's initial offer, and felt such a surge of love and pride he could barely contain it. "You are incredible," he told her that night. "I just know what our cattle are worth." But she flushed with pleasure at the compliment. "Not just that. Everything. The way you manage the ranch, the way you handle everything. I could not do this without you. You would manage. I would survive, but I would not thrive. You make everything better, Katherine." By their second anniversary, they had expanded the herd to 30 head and were starting to show a small profit. The house was fully finished inside, comfortable and warm, a real home. Katherine had made it beautiful with curtains and rugs she had woven, with furniture Isaac had built in the evenings, with small touches that made it uniquely theirs. That fall, Katherine discovered she was pregnant. She told Isaac one evening while they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, and he stared at her for a long moment before breaking into the widest smile she had ever seen. "Truly," he pulled her into his arms. "We are going to have a baby, truly." In the spring, I think. Are you happy? Are you scared? Both, she leaned into him. Mostly happy. We are ready for this, Isaac. We have a good home, a working ranch each other. This is the right time. Isaac placed his hand on her stomach, which was still flat, no sign yet of the life growing inside. I am going to be a father. You are going to be a wonderful father. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Katherine continued working on the ranch as long as she was able, though Isaac fretted constantly about her overdoing it. She finally agreed to take it easier in the final months, spending more time on bookkeeping and lighter tasks while Isaac handled the physical labor. Their neighbors rallied around them. The ranchers' wives came by regularly to check on Katherine, bringing food and advice and baby clothes they had saved from their own children. Robert promised to help out extra around the ranch when the baby came. The baby arrived on a warm April morning after a long night of labor that left Isaac feeling helpless and terrified. The neighbor woman who served as midwife finally emerged from the bedroom and told him he had a son. Isaac walked into the room on shaking legs. Katherine looked exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in blankets. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. Isaac, meet your son. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed and looked down at the baby, his son. The tiny face was red and wrinkled, eyes closed, one small fist visible outside the blanket. Isaac felt his heart crack open in a way it never had before. He is perfect, he whispered. He looks like you. Katherine traced one finger down the baby's cheek. What should we name him? They had discussed names but never settled on anything. Looking at his son now, Isaac knew immediately, James. After my father, Katherine smiled. James Whitmore, I like it. Life changed with a baby in the house. The sleepless nights, the constant needs, the way every plan had to revolve around James's schedule. But neither of them would have traded it for anything. Isaac found himself hurrying through chores to get back to the house, just to hold his son, to watch Katherine nurse him, to be part of this new little family they had created. James was 6 months old when Katherine told Isaac she was pregnant again. Already? He looked shocked, then delighted. We are going to have two, it appears so. She sounded more tired than excited. James was a fussy baby, demanding and difficult to soothe. I hope this one sleeps better. I hope you get some rest before this one arrives, Isaac said, pulling her close. You look exhausted, love. I am. But it is a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from building something real. The second baby arrived the following spring, a daughter they named Sarah. She was easier than James had been, a calm baby who nursed well and slept through the night within a few weeks. Katherine recovered quickly from the birth and was soon back to helping manage the ranch, now with 2 small children in tow. The years flowed together, marked by the rhythms of ranch life and family. They added to the herd gradually, bought more land when the opportunity arose, weathered dry years and good years and everything in between. James grew into a serious little boy who loved the animals. Sarah was wild and fearless, tagging after her father from the time she could walk. When James was 5 and Sarah 3, Katherine told Isaac she did not think there would be more children. 2 difficult pregnancies had been enough, and they had their hands full with the ranch and the children they had. Isaac agreed, though he felt a small pang of loss for the houseful he had once imagined. We have been blessed, Katherine said. We have healthy children and a thriving ranch in each other. That is more than enough. It is everything, Isaac agreed. As the children grew, the ranch grew with them. They hired seasonal help during busy times. They built a proper barn and expanded the house, adding 2 more bedrooms and a bigger kitchen. The 200 acres became 400 when a neighbor sold out and moved east. Catherine's business sense proved invaluable as they navigated the changing economics of ranching. She kept meticulous records that helped them make smart decisions about when to sell, when to hold, when to invest in improvements. She corresponded with other ranchers and merchants, building a network that brought them better deals and valuable information. Isaac still did most of the physical labor, but as the children got older, they began to help. James at 8 could already handle basic chores. Sarah at 6 was small but determined, insisting on helping her father despite Catherine's worries that she was too young. "She is just like you," Isaac told his wife one evening, watching Sarah lead a horse twice her size across the yard. "Stubborn and fearless and absolutely certain she can do anything." "That is not necessarily a compliment," Katherine said, but she was smiling. "It is the highest compliment I can think of." On their 10th anniversary, Isaac took Katherine back to Winnemucca. They left the children with neighbors and spent 2 days in town, staying at the same hotel where they had spent their wedding night. The town had grown in the decades since their marriage, new buildings replacing old ones, new families settling in. They walked to the train station, standing on the platform where their life together had really begun. "You ever regret it?" Isaac asked. "Giving up San Francisco, staying here instead?" Katherine turned to him, taking his hands in hers. "Not for one single moment. This life, this place, you, our children, the ranch we built together, it is everything I never knew I wanted. You gave me that, Isaac. When you jumped on that train, you gave me my whole life. You gave me mine." He kissed her there on the platform, not caring who saw. "I love you more now than I did that day. I did not think that was possible, but it is true. Every year with you makes me love you more." They returned to the ranch renewed, recommitted, ready for whatever the next decade would bring, and it brought plenty. Droughts and diseases, market crashes and neighbor disputes, all the challenges of making a living from the land. But they faced everything together, their partnership as strong as the day they married. James grew into a young man who loved ranching as much as his father did. At 18, he took on more responsibility, managing entire aspects of the ranch operation. Sarah, 2 years younger, showed more interest in the business side, poring over the account books with Katherine and asking sharp questions about profits and expenses. "She is going to run this place someday," Katherine predicted. "James will manage the land and the cattle, but Sarah will manage the money." "They make a good team," Isaac said. "Like us." When James was 20 and Sarah 18, a young man named Thomas came through looking for work. He was a good cowboy, hard-working and honest, and Isaac hired him for the season. By the end of summer, it was obvious that Thomas and Sarah were in love. Isaac watched them together with mixed feelings. His little girl falling in love, planning to leave and start her own life. Katherine saw his expression one evening and took his hand. "This is what we wanted for them," she reminded him. "Happy lives, love like we found. I know, it is just hard to let go. We are not letting go, we are letting her grow." Sarah and Thomas married the following spring in the same church where Isaac and Katherine had married 20 years earlier. It was a joyful celebration, the whole community coming together to honor the young couple. As Isaac danced with his daughter at the reception, he thought about the day he had jumped onto a train, the best impulsive decision of his life. "Be happy," he told Sarah. "That is all I want for you. Find the kind of love your mother and I have. Build something together." "I will, Papa." She hugged him tight. "You and Mama showed us what love looks like. I am not going to settle for anything less." Thomas and Sarah settled on a piece of land neighboring the ranch, and Thomas continued working with Isaac and James. The family operation expanded, stronger with another generation joining in. Catherine's parents both passed within a year of each other. her father first and her mother following 6 months later. They left the general store to Katherine, who ran it for 2 years before selling it to a young couple newly arrived in Winnemucca. She used the money to further expand the ranch, buying another section of land and investing in better breeding stock. "Your parents would be proud," Isaac told her after they signed the papers on the land deal. "Look at what you have built from that small stake they gave us." "What we built," Katherine corrected. "I could never have done this without you, Isaac. Every success we have had has been because we were partners, because we worked together." 25 years, Isaac marveled. It was their anniversary again, though they had stopped going to town to celebrate, preferring quiet evenings at home. "A quarter-century since I jumped on that train." "Best decision you ever made," Katherine teased. "The only decision that really mattered." They made love that night with the comfortable familiarity of long marriage, but no less passion for all the years between them. After, as they lay tangled together in the darkness, Isaac traced patterns on Katherine's arm and felt utterly content. "I have been thinking," Katherine said, "about hiring another hand or two permanently. James is talking about getting married, and when he does, he will want his own place, at least eventually. We are not getting any younger, Isaac. We should not be trying to do everything ourselves. Are you calling me old?" But he was smiling. "I am calling us both old. I am 47 years old. You are 49. We have worked hard for 25 years. Maybe it is time to work a little less hard. What would we do with ourselves if we were not working every daylight hour?" Katherine rolled to face him. "I have some ideas." They hired 2 permanent hands and began gradually stepping back from the daily operation of the ranch. James, now 23, took over more of the management. Sarah and Thomas expanded their own operation, running cattle on their land and Isaac's combined, creating an even larger family enterprise. Isaac found that Katherine was right. Having more time was a gift. They could take morning rides together, something they had not done in years. They could spend entire afternoons on the porch, talking and planning and simply being together. They could visit with grandchildren, because by now Sarah had given them 2 with another on the way. "We did it," Katherine said one evening. They were watching the sun set from their porch, the same view they had admired for 27 years. "We built everything we dreamed of, the ranch, the family, the life." "We did more than that," Isaac said. "We built something I never dared to dream of because I did not know it was possible. This kind of happiness, this kind of partnership. Do you remember how scared you were before you jumped on that train, terrified? I thought you would reject me, that I was not good enough for you." Katherine laughed. "I thought you did not want me. I was going to San Francisco to escape watching you marry someone else eventually. We were both fools. We were, but we figured it out in the end." Another 5 years passed, then 10. The ranch continued to thrive under James's management. Sarah and Thomas had 4 children, all showing signs of inheriting the family talent for ranching. Isaac and Katherine became the matriarch and patriarch of a growing family empire, respected throughout the region for their success and their partnership. Isaac's body began to slow as he approached 60. Nothing serious, just the natural wearing down of a life spent in hard physical labor. He still rode most days, still helped with major projects, but he tired more easily and was grateful for the younger hands who could do the heavy lifting. Katherine remained sharp as ever, her mind for business undiminished. She still managed the books, still made key decisions, still charmed buyers and negotiated deals. But she too felt the years, in the way her joints ached on cold mornings, in the way reading the account books required spectacles now. "We are getting old," she said one day, not sadly but with a kind of wonder. "We earned it," Isaac replied. "Every gray hair, every ache and pain. We earned all of it through honest work and honest living. They made a point of telling each other they loved each other every single day. It had become a ritual, words spoken over morning coffee, whispered last thing before sleep. After so many years together, the words still mattered, still carried weight and meaning. When Isaac was 62, he had a scare with his heart, a pain in his chest that sent Katherine into a panic and brought the doctor racing out from town. It turned out to be minor, nothing life-threatening, but it reminded them both that their time was not infinite. "I am not ready to lose you," Katherine told him, sitting beside his bed while he recovered. "I need more years with you, Isaac Whitmore, many more years. You are not getting rid of me that easily." He took her hand. "I still have too much to do. I want to see James's children grow up. I want to dance at all of Sarah's children's weddings. I want to sit on that porch with you for at least another 20 years. Promise me." "I promise to stay with you as long as I possibly can." The scare prompted them to make plans they had been putting off. They drew up proper wills, made sure all the ranch business was in order, talked to James and Sarah about the future and what would happen when they were gone. "Not for many years yet," James said firmly. "You two are going to be around to torment us for decades more." But they all knew it was coming eventually. The passage of time was inevitable, even for the strongest partnerships. Isaac recovered fully from his heart scare and went back to his normal routine, though Katherine watched him like a hawk for months afterward. Life continued on the ranch, seasons turning, cattle going to market, calves being born in spring. The rhythms they had known for 40 years. On their 40th anniversary, the whole family gathered at the main house for a celebration. James and his wife Molly, their 3 children. Sarah and Thomas, their 4 children, 2 of whom were now married with children of their own. 15 people crowded into the house and spilled out onto the porch, 3 generations of family that had started with Isaac jumping on a train after dinner. Isaac stood and cleared his throat. The conversations quieted. "I want to say something," he began. 40 years ago today, I married the love of my life. I had no idea what I was doing. I had land but no house, dreams but no real plan, love but no experience. Katherine took a chance on me anyway. She built this life with me, this ranch, this family. Everything you see around you, everything we have, exists because she said yes." His voice roughened with emotion. "I jumped on a train 40 years ago because I could not let her go. It was the most impulsive, reckless thing I have ever done, and it was absolutely the right thing. Every good thing in my life came from that moment. Katherine, you are my heart. You have been my partner and my best friend and my greatest blessing. I love you more than words can express." Katherine was crying, and half the people in the room were too. She stood and went to him, and he pulled her close. "You gave me everything," she whispered. "A life beyond anything I could have imagined. Thank you for jumping on that train. Thank you for not letting go." "Never," he promised. "I will never let go." The party continued late into the night, full of laughter and music and the comfortable chaos of family. Isaac and Katherine danced together in the yard under the stars, moving slowly to a fiddle tune one of their grandsons played. 40 years, Katherine marveled. Where did the time go? "Into this," Isaac gestured at the house, the people, the land stretching out around them. "Into building all of this together. Would you do it again? If you could go back to that day at the station, knowing everything that was coming, all the hard work and hard times." Isaac did not hesitate. "In a heartbeat. I would make the same choice every single time. Jump on the train, marry you, build this life, all of it. Even the dry year of '93 when we almost lost everything, even that, because we got through it together. Even the time I was so sick after Sarah was born and you thought you might lose me. Even that, though I aged 10 years in those 3 days. He pulled her closer. Every moment with you has been worth whatever price I had to pay. They swayed together under the Nevada stars, surrounded by the life they had built, and Katherine felt utterly, completely happy. This was what she had chosen when she let Isaac follow her, when she got off that train and came back to Winnemucca. This full, rich, sometimes difficult but always meaningful life. The years continued to pass, though more gently now that they had stepped back from daily ranch operations. They spent their days together, often riding out to check on the cattle, though now they rode slowly and stopped frequently to rest the horses, or so they claimed. Really, they were resting themselves, but neither wanted to admit it. They watched their grandchildren grow, attended weddings and births, became great-grandparents. The ranch expanded further under James and Sarah's management, becoming one of the most successful operations in the region. When Isaac was 68 and Katherine 66, they took a trip to San Francisco, the city Katherine had never seen. They stayed for 2 weeks, enjoying theaters and restaurants and all the culture the city had to offer. It was exciting and overwhelming and exhausting. On the train ride home, Katherine leaned against Isaac's shoulder and sighed with contentment. "It was a wonderful trip," she said, "but I am ready to be home. No regrets about what might have been. None. That city is amazing, but it is not my life. My life is in Winnemucca on the ranch with you. I am glad, because I do not think I could have ever been happy in a city. Good thing I got off that train then. Good thing I got on it first." They smiled at each other, this couple who had spent 43 years together, who knew each other as well as they knew themselves. Isaac lived to be 74. It was his heart in the end, one more scare that turned out to be serious. He died at home with Katherine holding his hand. Their children and grandchildren gathered around, and his last words were, "I love you," to the woman who had been his whole world for 49 years. Katherine grieved deeply, but not destructively. She had known this day would come eventually, had prepared herself as much as anyone could. She stayed on the ranch, in the house they had built together, surrounded by family. She lived 5 more years, remaining sharp and engaged, still offering advice on ranch management, still keeping some accounts, still very much the matriarch of the family. She spoke often of Isaac, keeping his memory alive for the great-grandchildren who had never met him or had been too young to remember him clearly. She told them the story of how he jumped on a train, how he refused to let her go, how they built their whole life from that one moment of brave impulsiveness. "That is what love looks like," she told them. "It is jumping on the train. It is not letting go. It is choosing each other every single day and building something together that lasts." Katherine died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 79. The funeral was huge, with people coming from all over the region to pay respects to a woman who had been a pillar of the community for more than half a century. She was buried next to Isaac on a hill overlooking the ranch they had built together, under the wide Nevada sky. Years later, their great-grandchildren would still tell the story. How Isaac jumped on a train for love. How Katherine got back off for love. How they built a ranch and a family and a legacy that lasted generations. How true love, brave love, the kind of love that refuses to let go, can create something that endures long after the lovers themselves are gone. The ranch still operated, now run by the 4th generation but still bearing the Whitmore name. The original house stood as a monument, carefully preserved, with a plaque telling the story of Isaac and Katherine. Young couples getting married would sometimes visit, touching the walls of a house built by a man who loved his wife so much he jumped on a moving train rather than let her go. And in Winnemucca, on warm summer evenings, old-timers still told the story at the saloon, embellishing it a little more with each retelling but always getting the heart of it right. Love that takes risks. Love that builds. Love that endures. Love that never, ever lets go. The kind of love that started with a cowboy and a train and a woman brave enough to say yes to an uncertain future. The kind of love that changed everything.